Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Occult Exploration Society. I'm Snappy, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Ryan and Dion. How's it going, guys?
It's definitely going. It's been hot for a change in England, so everybody's been outside celebrating because tomorrow it'll be snowing again.
Wild. How are you, Dion?
Life is beautiful.
Amazing, amazing. Glad you guys are here today. Today we're going to be diving into Ryan's tarot deck. Talk to us about this deck, Ryan. You've been working on this for a while now, and it's finally almost here. We were going to be announcing the Kickstarter today, but there's a bit of a delay, right?
Yeah, Kickstarter changed something they shouldn't have changed, and in order for me to fix it, it's going to take another 3 days. So what we're going to do is another episode next Sunday, and we'll kick it off properly then, and you can go and find the link and hopefully go and purchase it, or just go and have a look at it, or ridicule it and leave me 1 star, even though you've not bought it.
Now I'm excited for this one. It's going to be an amazing deck. You have designed a bunch of incredible stuff for it. You did all of the original art. You've created a bunch of pieces and everything. We can bring up some of your pictures here that you sent in. Here's the case. Do you want to talk about this?
I do, because me and you had a bit of a thing with this, didn't we, Snappy?
Yeah.
So
it's kind of interesting.
About 4 or 5 nights ago, as I was falling asleep, I just had a vision of this box for just to hold the tarot deck, and that you take you wave a magic ring over the top that's magnetic. It releases a little magnetic lock in there. You take the top off, and then the 4 sides fall down, and you can put your Celtic cross on there to do your tarot reading. And it's got a bit of a Saturnian black box thing going on as well, even though it's really a cuboid and not a cube. But then I sent it to you for approval, Snappy, to say, do you like this? That's a good idea, this, isn't it? And you went, well, actually, Ryan, I've already done this. I've already made this.
Yeah. So
Go on.
I have this right here, which folds out into the cube.
There you go.
With the Saturn square number. for this very reason.
We've got to show the audience the R2D2 sigil on the top with the electrical fork on the top.
Yes, sure.
There you go, R2D2.
The Great Mother, the sigil for my sigil for the Great Mother. But yes, similar
cool.
ideas. Great minds think alike. Isn't that kind of wild?
So, yeah, I mean, this is just a mock-up of it, but as soon as we sell it, I'll be able to make them quite easily, because I made a lot of cool resin things, which I've actually brought with me here. There's a cup. You can see that. Made a resin cup for your cups. We got a full. Go on, I'll show that again to the audience. Where are we? There we are. We've got a lovely cup, and you can drink out of that if you want to get slightly poisoned from the resin. We got a sword as well. Oh, it's difficult. There we go, full-size sword. Everything's in golden ratio and made to this pattern that I discovered at Stonehenge and the pyramids that most of the occult tarot guys use to make their cards. We'll see that later. And we've also got a wand. This is the Bendy Child's one. But there you go. So there's like a fire, water, air, and earth for the 4 races. I've also got. Oh, by the way, when it's dark, they glow in the dark. I've also got a series of kind of coins as well. So you'll get 7 coins,
neat.
and they glow in the dark. And they've got sigils for the different planets on there. There's quite a few things that I've made, handmade, by the way. I designed them all on a computer, got them 3D printed. They came back. Then I've been molding them and casting them in resin and finishing them off by hand. So I'm kind of excited to get them out there, really.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm impressed with the level of detail and all the stuff that's going in, right? Like, this is a really cool addition. And the idea that you're going to have this magnetic ring that'll allow it to pop open, that'll be really fun, you know?
Until you lose the ring. We've already thought of this. Obviously, any magnet will do, or probably just yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes. I'll make sure that there's like another little catch in there so you can open it by hand. But essentially, you can wave your hand over it and it'll open up.
Beautiful,
Cool.
beautiful.
Yeah. I think the most important thing for me was that it stayed to the brand. There you go. Those are your four aces, your four elemental. We've been calling them relics because we think it sounds cool. And when we make a box for them, it'll be a reliquary. So you get
Oh,
to
I
say
like
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Totally neat. And then you also have some incredible, like, are these going to be poster size? Are you going to include these as well?
Yeah, well guessed. Yeah, that's going to be a poster. Obviously, the tarot, as it went along, assumed whatever occultists wanted to put on there. So by the time you get into the 17th, 18th century, you're getting a lot of Kabbalistic stuff jammed in there. So it's only right that I did a nice tree of life to help anybody that wants to learn the tarot and learn Kabbalah at the same time. All the other systems. There's a tetractys hidden in there as well. Not in that, but in other places. So yeah, and this is like everything that I did is actually like poster size, even the cards. So if anybody wants one of the cards at poster size, we can produce those for them. But other than that, yeah.
That's so cool because, you know, it's really good to have these kind of visualizations to be able to do it, and you have it all color coded to the planets. It's fun.
Yeah, it's really important to me that I stick to the tradition, and I want to help people understand and learn the Western esoteric system. This is, I see it as a bit of a decoder wheel. All these ancient systems are done to calendars, and this essentially is a wheel of the year, and
it really reminds me of the astrological system if I was going to be doing like a natal chart, you know.
Yeah, well, it is essentially the astrological tarot is the astrological system, just in you could call it in a linear fashion, but it's not, because the cards can be mixed up. But if the tarot was actually a book, a bound book, then it would be linear. But yeah, so every single card is on that wheel and in its appropriate place in what would be the year. And you can derive from this as well. You must understand that in the esoteric system all over the world, they're talking about the electric and the magnetic force, the male and the female, the fire and the water, the yin and the yang. So this is on there as well. Also, we've got all the Pythagorean stuff that I've talked about in previous episodes, because there are big secrets in the tarot, and all to do again with cosmological calendars and music. We can see a little keyboard in the top right hand corner of the octaves.
Oh yeah, right.
It would take another full episode to describe these things, so it's lucky that we've got 2 coming up. But I think that would be more for the second episode, frankly. I want to keep this one relatively light.
Cool. Yeah, we're gonna have all this kind of stuff. You're gonna have all that included in your. Yeah.
If you could pop that back on for a second, Snappy, if that's possible, that wheel. So we can see in the bottom left-hand corner. I'm sure it's quite difficult for everyone to see, but there's the court cards. Now, if anyone's heard of the Myers-Briggs personality test, which was taken from Carl Jung. And Carl Jung took it from the tarot. There are 16 archetypes for people. It's like a 4x4 sort of thing. So there's fire, water, air, and earth, and then fire, water, air, and earth, and it's combinations like a cocktail of each. And then you get these personality types out of it. So that's encoded into it. Everything that I've ever discovered about tarot is in there.
Beautiful. Wow. So many different levels. Love it.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
So many.
And it's going to be so handy for everyone. Amazing.
That's the point.
What do you think, Dion?
I think that's amazing.
I've actually produced this into a reading mat. So it's like a giant mouse mat that you can do your readings on, and it'll be underneath there. So it's just another thing that people can have. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And so you wanted to take us today through the creation of one of your cards, the moon, right?
Yeah. I figured that, me and Snappy can talk about tarot for weeks on end. Snappy does talk about tarot for weeks on end. Every other episode's a tarot. You produce so much content, Snappy. It's amazing. However, it's true. However, I thought, well, if I dig into my files and I find a card, and we can show you what I would be doing to produce the card. And in fact, this is the first thing I made for every card. This is just for me. It might look pretty, but it was just for me. I had it as a screensaver on my desktop, as a desktop background, just as a reference while I'm making these things, to keep them in my subconscious while I'm making things. So we can see lots of different moon cards throughout the ages, and me trying to really figure out what's going on. And we can see that the moon card is one of those that is particularly different, especially in the early years. There's lots of people studying and measuring things and getting square and compasses out, or playing lutes to ladies on balconies while they're drunk. There's so many variations in it, but this helps you to decipher what it's about, what the core of it is about. While I'm doing that, I'm also, well, this is the moon card, and the moon appears all over the Western esoteric tradition. So it's just constantly, what does the moon mean in Kabbalah? What does the moon mean to astrologers? What does the moon mean to witches? What does the moon mean to people with the trousers down? So I'm happy to read this as well, because it's been quite a while since I've read it. But you can see that it says like the unconscious, right brain, transformation, generation, the birth canal, the cup, the feminine, magnetic. They're just buzzwords for me to understand things. Also, we can see the more deeper esoterica associated with it. For example, the moon is 2,160 miles in diameter. 2160, then you get 108 is half of that, and these are these moon numbers. If you've looked into any religion, really, I mean, especially in the East, they're obsessed with the number 108 and associated.
Oh, reduces to 9 though, right? Too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, 1 and 8 is 9. It's also, you can see if you look towards the bottom right of that big circle in the center, you can see a cube. Well, the interior angles of a cube equal 2160. Next to that, we've got the obviously silver and the moon. It says the atomic weight is 108 of silver. Again, so you got 108 again. It goes so deep. So I'm trying to insert all these things into my brain so I can then have it spill out into the card as I'm making it. What else is on there? The fact that I noticed when I was making this that tarot cards themselves, if we look in the bottom left-hand corner, are the same as a silver screen at the cinema. That silver screen, silver again, the moon, is the same dimensions as a tarot card. So what's going on there? It turned out it was Pythagorean triangles, but we can go into that later as well.
Well, you see a lot of this Pythagorean triangle thing. Like if you have it clearly, if you look at the top cards there, all of those particular moon, like you have your version, you have Lady Frida Harris's, you have a couple I don't recognize, but they have the drawing down of the triangles, which is that 666 that you get, Pascal's triangle. And this,
well, 6 times 6 times 6 is 216, which is twice 108. Yeah,
exactly, right? So you have all of this descending of the triangles, this drawing down of the moon, this Dianic magic, right? And the moon is also, right, the waters, that absolute reflection, the mirror, the other, right? The lesser sun. Beautiful stuff here. It's so wild. What's going on in this right-hand corner with the compass?
Where am I looking? Sorry.
Yeah, the bottom right-hand corner with your compass, and you have it in the cross.
Let me have a look on the big screen. 1 second. I don't know what you're looking at, Snappy. In the right-hand corner of the entire screen.
Well, like at the bottom.
Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry. I see that. Yeah. Well, all that stuff's on that wheel I showed you a moment ago. Okay. So that is the ages. You know, if it was in India, it'd be like the Yugas, but for us, it's the age of Aquarius, the age of Pisces, the age of whatever, and working all that stuff out. I think when I'd made this card, I hadn't quite figured it all out. What you got to understand, everybody watching, is that I actually did the original designs for these cards about 9 or 10 years ago now, and they've stayed. I've kept a hold of them because I was trying to really get down to the bottom. I was never quite comfortable that I'd got it. It turns out I mostly had got it, but there were things to learn on the way to then put back into the cards. So a few of the cards have had a big change, like 4 or 5 of them, but the majority just have little additions. And if anybody, once we've finished this live presentation, wants to go and watch one of the previous Occult Explorers episodes that I did on the tarot, you can find all that stuff out. The really deep, meaningful Pythagorean. It's all to do with number and kind of the basic Lego building blocks of the universe, really, which is these 9 numbers, the 108s, the 216s, and they're all built into calendars. So that cross.
A lot of this comes out of these solar cults, right? We got to recognize that a lot of this is coming out of the solar cult, and they're mapping like the universe. Those Pythagorean numbers that you're talking about, and you discuss this in depth in that episode, is it's showing you the poles, and it's showing you the size of all the planets and the rotation of all the planets around the sun. It's this encoding of the entire astrological calendar, which if you're talking about with like a seafaring culture that this is coming out of course is going to be the most important in occulted knowledge. It also tells you when you can do your harvests, when you can do anything, and also shows you the path to ionic life. It gives you the directions to that middle way, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Particularly that cross, because it's easy to explain. That cross points at the lion, the bull, the eagle, and the man. And when you take those zodiacal creatures and give them a number, so obviously the bull is the 2nd in the zodiac, the lion is the 5th, the eagle is Scorpio, which is 8, and then the man is 10. You add those together, you get 26. That 26 is the name of God, essentially. The name of God to Hebrews is Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Jehovah. You add that up, you get 26. What's that? It's a 26,000-year cycle that this calendar goes through. It's actually 25,920 years. And when you divide that up appropriately, you get these numbers: 108, 216, 432. A lot of people will have heard of 432, Pythagorean tuning for music. It's all this stuff. It's beautiful, it's deep, but it is kind of complex. Again, watch the previous episode.
Dion, do you have anything to add on this? I know you've seen a lot of this in your studies.
I think it's amazing job that you've done here the tool that you've built to study this. It's like a meme. It's meme magic. It goes in your subconscious. A bunch of information that you see on a repetitive basis, and then at the end it all adds up. All that information.
Yeah,
I love it.
Well, it does. That what you just said is the point of the moon card, is it not? It's all about your subconscious. It's all about these things that lurk down there that kind of swirl around, and somehow that's linked to the unconscious, and then that rises up to the subconscious. And if you're good, you can pluck it out and become conscious of it, and it's pearls of wisdom. But we'll see this when we start to look at the card.
Well, it also talks about just like the entirety of tarot. Like, you know, tarot really is this kind of mimetic magic, and it comes out of idol worship, and then later the creation of images, like flat images for the purposes of idol worship. But then that evolves and combines with sortitic magic, and we get this unfolding. And now the tarot, like you said, has basically been this centralized mimetic form that has incorporated the entire Western magical tradition, right? It's a way to occult and to conceal, but also to maintain this unfolding of the tradition within a game, you know?
Yeah. And I think as well, it's important to remember how language works. Now, language is a series of symbols. You might say tree, and you might know inside what a tree is, but really, there's no such thing as a tree. Not really. It's a series of archetypes put together, and you can recognize it as a tree. There are so many different trees that you can't really draw a tree either. Some of them are triangular, some of them are round, some of them are short, some of them are tall, some of them grow like bushes. But you know a tree because of these factors, these labels that you're able to give to it. Language is that. Language is a series of symbols. We language the world into existence. And tarot takes advantage of this. It's just another way of languaging, but a special way of
Absolutely.
languaging, it turns out. Whether
It's an
by
image. Yeah, it's an imagistic form, right? It's that idol worship. Like I feel like a lot of us modern people forget. Like when I was studying in India, you get into the aesthetic tradition. You can read entire stories through the perception of these idols. And it's no different in the Greek world. And these tarot cards are a modern conception of the same thing. And you're going to show us the layers. And when people talk about reading tarot, that's literally what we mean, reading it and creating a story. The tarot cards, in my view, are symbolic vehicles used to create story. By tying them together, we create and write new myths, you know.
But before you go forward, could you give us a brief small history of Tarochi, or where Tarot comes from? Because I know we did the episode before, but just a real brief little primer, because maybe some people are watching and don't really know how to use Tarot or what Tarot is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if I talk about the history, Snappy, would you like to talk about how it was used? How
Sure.
does that sound? Right.
Sounds good.
So you're in the 1400s, quite a long time ago. In the early part of that time, in northern Italy, bankers are starting to come about. A lot of the knowledge and information and a lot of the changes made to the Western world by groups such as the Templar and the Christian Church are starting to come to the fore, and we're beginning to get the modern world. There's a lot of money in Venice at that time. They're also a port, so things are coming in and going out, especially things from the old world. What's the old world? Well, it's the last remnants of that Greco-Roman world, which were finally falling through the destruction of Constantinople around that time. So men that had been priests, the upper echelons of society, the guys that could read, the guys that kept things moving, well, there was nothing left in that old world now. They're moving to where the wealth is, which is in northern Italy. So with them came a lot of this old knowledge. Also in that area, you've had people like what was left of the Mithraists. I see there's lots of old mysteries in these cards, and particularly nudges and winks towards Mithraism and other similar cults. They'd famously been kept alive by the Bogomils and the Cathars and all these guys. And when you look, there were still strands of it left in that part of the world. So all this is coming together. Not forgetting that, although people don't know about it, esotericism, it's always been not ruling the world, but making the world move. The guys at the top, more often than not, are esotericists, as we know it now. So all this is conglomerating, and we've got these families like the Medicis and guys like that. The first tarot deck that we know of is the Visconti Sforza deck, which was a wedding gift between these two feuding families. These things bind people together, as does marriage. So in this part of the world, this esotericism, and the invention of paper, which also comes along with the Cathars, and it comes from the East, it comes from China, then it goes to the Mamluks. In fact, the Mamluks actually invented playing cards in the first place. So they take the manufacture of paper, it all comes together, and they get an individual artist to draw all these cards out, gold leaf them, and on them are, yes, a game, but also the mysteries. And we know that because of all the hidden things in there.
There's 16 Roman gods in the first Visconti deck, explicit.
Yeah. Yeah, explicitly. I mean, there are notes passed around by the church at that time saying there are gods in the old gods are in these cards. How very awful of these people, but they're secreted well enough that it's almost intangible. You've got to really go, oh, yeah, probably, maybe. It's difficult to pin down. They are good. They're good. Like they're hidden. Like alchemy hid the old mysteries as well. Alchemy's in there clearly. Well, not so clearly. I see it as clearly. But yeah, all these things, and the fact that it's astronomical, astrological, all these things are coming together and they're put into these cards, these wonderful cards. A lot of people say these things were added on by Eliphas Levi and such people, but no, they are there from the very beginning, and I proved it again in that previous episode, which I would recommend watching.
Right.
So
the only thing. Oh, go ahead, Dion.
Now, could one use a regular deck of playing cards?
one could, but one could also use sticks or stones or bones. So Snappy would be better qualified to talk about the sorties.
Yeah, I mean, the idea with so the tarot really is resting upon sortitic magic, and the entirety of sortitic magic is truly based upon the invocation of two things, and two things alone: perception, the sight, and randomness, the invocation of random. You know, how you invoke random changes over time. In the earliest versions of it, it's birds. Usually either watching the birds, listening to the birds, sometimes killing the birds. We also see the bones, the throwing of dice and lots. Dion can talk about this within the African tradition, because they have, like, Ifa is its own incredibly complicated divination system that has survived to modernity, that is equally as magical and encodes much of the same information as the tarot, but in non-pictorial form, in numerical form. You know, so there are many levels to this kind of stuff in many different complementary cultures, right? But the key to divination, to all forms of divination, is perception and randomness. That's all that's needed. On top,
Can I just say?
Go ahead.
So it's only quick. There are more combinations of tarot cards than there are atoms in the universe. How's that for you?
Wow.
True facts.
You know, the tarot is just an attempt, right? The tarot is an attempt to encode like Ryan has showed, the unfolding of the universe. It's supposed to be a dualistic representation of our physical reality through symbolic, idealized forms, right? It's really what it is. What we see with the modern tarot, it really comes out of, like, the only thing I would add to what Ryan is saying, he's describing the mainstream reception of modern tarot. There is a secondary school, but it is only talked about in literature. We don't have much evidence, because tarot cards that weren't created by metal plates didn't survive. The reason why we have the Visconti is because they were printed on by printed presses. So we have the actual plates. Most tarot decks that are talked about come from the Roma tradition, and these are people that are painting them themselves, and they're passed down mother to daughter, and most of them don't survive the test of time. They fall apart. But we do have, also Ryan was talking about, this grand magical tradition within the various secret societies. It is certain that the tarot is within, at least the images and the ideology as we understand it, is coming from the Rosicrucian order. Modern tarot really connects itself to the Golden Dawn in England, and to two main figures who leaked all of the information. So within the Golden Dawn, as one of the final sort of rites, you would go through this process of creating your own deck. They would give you all of, like what Ryan was showing, all of the different types of people. They give you all of the descriptors of the cards. Ryan even still uses in his deck some of their magical descriptor language, but they would give this to individuals, and then they would extrapolate from that magical phrase and from those descriptions the cards for themselves. And each person would make their own deck. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah. I was just saying that it's called Book T. You can find it these days. I found it and used it as part of mine.
Yeah.
So I got another question. Can you mention AE weight?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, snappy. Like McGregor Mothers, AE weight, Aleister Crowley, all these Golden Dawn guys. Yeah, they all, again, they're pulling in all these different traditions. And you get like, just before them was Eliphas Levi, and he's pulling out all these traditions together as well. So sometimes I think they're forcing things in. Like for me, the fact that it's associated with the Hebrew letters, because there are 22 Hebrew letters, 22 cards of the alphabet, and then they start forcing it in there, and it doesn't quite line up. So sometimes these guys have a bit of wishful thinking in there as well, and inserting their own ideas in there, which are valid. The ideas are valid.
So was
but
there
they
a
don't
shift?
necessarily line up.
There was a
Excuse me?
shift around 1860s and 70s in the information.
Well, what we have is most of this is within the upper echelons, within these occulted societies, which were reserved for the middle and upper classes, right? And for the artists, those were the people who could experience this. Crowley and A.E. Waite broke with hundreds of years of tradition. They took MacGregor Mathers' work, as well as others within the Golden Dawn Society, and they made it public. A.E. Waite did pretty much, like if you look at his version, which is the most popular tarot card deck to this day, the Pamela Smith Waite deck, it's very much is a very literal kind of interpretation of the Book of T, with even like less layers. Like there's a removal of much of the overt Kabbalistic stuff that we see in the Book of T. It's there if you know how to find it in the images, but they're not having any of this mystical language. They're really making a very simplified deck, and I believe that deck is really resting almost exclusively upon the art of Pamela Coleman Smith. Most people aren't even reading Waite's descriptions of the cards anymore. They're just using Pamela's art. And it's unfortunate she didn't really make much money, and he gets most of the credit. And sometimes even Ryder, the publisher, is credited over Coleman Smith.
Yeah, Rider Waite. That's right. Yeah. I will say Arthur Edward Waite, I'm not a fan. He wrote lots. He wrote lots from the Grail myths. He wrote lots about especially the British esoteric tradition.
He translated Alpheus Levi into the English too. We have to give him credit.
Yeah, I do give him credit, but he's also a pompous git and
a Christian.
Only tells half truths, and he's not a particularly likable. Just to read it, he's not. It's turgid would be the word, and he's pompous. I'm not a big fan.
One last question. Yeah. Explain to me, what's the difference between minor and major arcana?
So the major arcana are the main 22 cards. Arcana means secret, and it kind of has it's kind of saying something that's been and gone as well about it, something that's arcane, something that's difficult to fathom. So it's the secrets. So the major arcana are the deeper secrets, the more traditional esoteric secrets. There's so much in there. It's difficult to put your finger on it, but it's like the more profound secrets of the major arcana, and then the minor arcana are more like a cocktail, an alchemical cocktail of number symbolism and meaning. So you put in all these archetypes together in different formulas and then getting these cards out of it. So it's more, if you're learning the tarot, it's more like the minor arcana are much like an exercise in combining archetypes in formulas. So you add fire to water, that you add the number 2 to the zodiacal constellation of Virgo, and then you get a certain card out of it. You get a certain feeling with certain nuances, certain personality types, certain events, you might say. The cups, the cups of events.
I would just add to this, the word Trump is really interesting, and it will show you some of the more mystical origins of the tarot. This word Trump actually comes from the word triumph, which in the French comes from the triombi, which is a type of celebratory war poem for Dionysus the general that would be said during these festival rites to Dionysus as these triumphant victories of calling him forth into battle and into celebration and revelry. And what this is also about is that the tarot is really encoding, on one hand, it is the Dionysian mystery. We have the Fool's Journey literally coming about. But by this time, the Fool's Journey is the romance saga. It is the story of the night, and it's the Grail myth, right? It's taken on this color. And the triumph, this kind of war celebratory thing, and turning the triumphs are really they're the idols. The trumps are the literal deities, and then the lesser arcana are sort of the daimones in the Greek tradition. These be your lesser spirits, right? So it's really about, you have your deities who you're bringing in triumphantly. You're drying them down through this poetical song and through these idol images. And then their powers are represented by the elements of the natural world. Those are like your animistic, daimonic spirits.
Again, it's the building blocks of the world, the building blocks of thought, the building blocks of reality around you. Like death's in there. You know, death's a fact to us all. You're not, and it's how to deal with death and how to look at death. The devil's on there. You know, what can you learn from the devil? All these different characters. These are the immortals. These are these facts of life that you cannot destroy. They'll be there with you. They'll be there without you. It's how to combine and how to look at these things through somewhat logical lens and a somewhat illogical lens, and that's life. And that's how it helps you to behave appropriately with these things. Hence tarot readings. People get a lot from you. You chuck the cards down, you say, well, this is that, this is this, you know, a bit of death. We got a little bit of the Fool in there. So that means that someone's about to die. Someone's newly dead. Or whatever it'll be. I jest.
But it's also interesting too, like we have different levels of the tarot and different levels. Like if you look at something like the Marseille deck, that seems to be very kind of Kabbalistic in its origin. Then if we look at something like the Visconti deck, it's very Roman and pagan in its origin. If we look at the Solabusca, this is full on Saturnian dark magic, right? And all of these kind of different traditions of the tarot coalesce and form the modern tarot, right?
Yeah.
Kind of.
However, they're all trying to achieve the same thing, which is to pass on these ancient traditions in a more modern way, modern in the 1400s. True,
very true. All right, so let's start breaking down this moon card so we can see how this image is created and how the imagery unfolds in the various levels of meaning.
So, as with all good esoteric artists, I start with certain proportions because these certain proportions are really important. Now we can see the golden spiral, and I have a Vesica Pisces at the top, or Vesica Piscis would be the correct way to put this. So the original tarot cards are all 3, 4, 5 triangles, and 3, 4, 5 triangles are in golden ratio. So that's why I'm laying these things on. I do this at the beginning because I want it to embody the universe. And we'll see later on there's another pattern I also use to help me construct them, which is this very deep ancient esoteric pattern that's throughout all time and seems to be one of the deepest mysteries used to construct Stonehenge, the pyramids, all this good stuff. So simply that. Any questions, anyone?
I love it. It's wild. So you have the Viscous Pisces at the top. What is, like, I guess that's the feminine of Pisces of the moon, right?
Yeah, I particularly put it there because of the moon and the fact that well, we'll see as we go on.
Okay.
So again, this is just me putting things together, putting ideas together. I often write down 10 years ago, as I'm discovering these things, although I'd spent a good year or so really delving deep into the tarot, I'm still discovering things. It takes years for these things to unfurl. So whenever you see text, it's me understand. Oh, I'm having a bit of a brainwave because of these subconscious things that I've implanted in there from the tarot. They're coming to fruition. They're bubbling up and having meaning to me. So I write them down as notes while I'm doing it. Or I think this should go here. I think that should go there. Here we can see a lady on a back with her face would be the moon at the bottom. And then we can see her hair spread out into the water. This doesn't eventually make it into the card, but you can see an idea that I'm having. This is actually the opposite of what I did to the High Priestess card, which is card number 2, very much related to this card. And on that one, it's the opposite. There are 2 pillars on there, which I've just, if I don't know if anyone notices, but it's 2 ladies' legs, and there's a gateway behind her, and that's an open lady's legs. So I'm doing the opposite here, because it's almost as if we've come out of the vagina again, and we're going to a different place.
Well, also, right, the moon is that virginal energy, right? It is that energy that is that absolute feminine, right? There is no room for the masculine in some way, right?
No, the masculine loves it, though. This is what the masculine wants.
Exactly. Wants to draw it down. Beautiful.
Wants to stick it in. No, didn't say that.
Terrible.
Any thoughts, Dion? Not lewd thoughts, Dion. Come on now.
Oh, come on. Let me have some fun. Beautiful, beautiful. Love it.
Cool. And yeah, might as well move on to the next one because it's just a slow building process. Again, you can see. I noticed now I kind of done the rebel insignia from Star Wars.
Right, I was going to ask.
Again, keep moving on. You can just see these things coming together. This one was particularly, I stuck to the Marseille idea because I think that communicates it the best. At every point, I'm looking to communicate these ideas to the tradition and in the best way. So I will break from the tradition if I think I have a better idea to explain it. However, try and stick to that tradition as well. So here we can see the 2 towers, which are actually Ophiuchus and Orion, but that's not to be said here. We can talk about that some other time. But we can just see me starting to make this card. I've taken the 2 dogs that were on there. We can see now they're just big shadows cast against these towers. Again, an idea that I abandon as I carry on making the card. So if you want to go on the next one, just start seeing it come together. The moon there, slightly different. 2 slightly different. There's like a wolf and a dog. It's showing 2 parts of the psyche. One part's wild, one part's tamed. You know, that's the difference between a wolf and a dog. One's domesticated.
Right.
That was actually, if we can see now, the wolf's turned into a werewolf. But really, people at home, if you've got a big monitor, you can see how bad that looks. It was actually a guy in a Spirit of Halloween costume that I've just kind of manipulated to look decent. But because these are literally thousands of photos put together, that's what it is. I'm laying on images and images and images, and then manipulating them, and then painting over the top of them for the light, and just making things look right. So again, I'm exposing my process here, which I wouldn't normally do because I'm an artist, and it's like, no, you can't see it till it's done.
Also, you don't want to show people the mistakes and the cover-ups and the pro, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm exposing myself here, guys. Again, you know, more and more and more. It's starting to look a bit more like the Marseille card now. We're starting to get atmosphere and light occlusion and all these other artistic things that you need to have for things to look real. You know, if you've got a light source, you need to light it correctly or not light it correctly. For example, the werewolf there needed to be black because when you look at something in silhouette, you just see the outline. So, you know, it needs to be much, much darker. We can also see the moon's starting to become a character in it. That's not the real surface of the moon. We can see kind of lips forming at the bottom, and right. this liquid coming out, this dew.
Oh yeah, it makes me think of the Soma. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, we could if you go back to the previous one, Snappy, and if everyone looks, there's it might be too small, but there's lots of little magic mushrooms growing on a path in the background, which is obviously related to the Soma.
Awesome. Wild.
Again, I see it says "get you drunk" now. Let me put it on the big screen. Yeah, it says get you drunk, music, poetry, drugs, love. These are there's is it the Charles the Fourth? There's some French tarot deck. The Parisian, there's a Parisian one tarot deck, and it's got a guy strumming a lute, and there's a lady on the balcony, and his eyes are all over the place. He's like, it's almost like Romeo and Juliet, but Romeo's drunk and making up songs to sing to his love up there. And it's showing that the subconscious is the place of inspiration. This is what, and that lady, that Juliet up on the balcony, is the muse that he's looking for. She is he's been possessed. His subconscious has been possessed with the love of this woman. But that love is also bubbling up these feelings that humans have that allow us to express ourselves in music and art and poetry, and that feeling of love and attachment that we have. And all these things are in the moon card. It suggests so much.
Beautiful.
What say you, Snappy?
Oh, I love exactly what everything you're saying here is so true, right? The moon, it inspires that kind of to lose yourself and to become possessed in that flow, right? It's that feminine energy which operates on that unconscious, the subliminal. It's that energy that guides you. It's like a warm hug, and it brings that madness too, though, right? It can also lead to fear and confrontation, right? It causes you to lose your head. You know, reason has you need reason to approach, but at the same time, reason has no place here, right? Just as the masculine has no place here. It's that it's to go here is to be transformed in a way, right? Because it's such a profound idealistic form. It's that absolute virgin, and she demands submission, right? It's that Artemis force who will take your head, that arrow, though, it can also shoot you, come and kill you, right? Like the moon is a dangerous energy, right?
Yeah, hence we got that big wolf there. And if you see the two cliffs that the wolves are on, one's still a dog right now, but they both end up as wolves. One's the one on the left with the fire in there. It's got kind of jaggedy teeth. You know, the whole thing's, it's like there was a book when I was a little boy called Adventure in the Dark. And it's that thing when you're a kid, you walk through a mysterious wooded area and suddenly there's a big tree that looks scary with the old branches. And, you know, it's like a big monster coming down. This is that same place. This is the reason why people are scared to do psychedelic drugs, because they're scared of themselves when they get in there. They're scared what they'll find. They're scared of those same forces that come out in nightmares are going to come out when you're on the trip. Those bacchanalian, what did you say before? I can't even pronounce it. Artemisinal forces.
Yeah,
there you go.
Right. It brings like also, you know, we got to remember, right? The night is the most primal force, and it's the most terrifying and chaotic force. It is the most othering force. So the moon is that last refuge, that reflection of light that can protect us, but it can also shine a light and reveal us, because night can also hide us from predators. There's so much layers to this kind of energy, right? The moon, I also think of that Hecate energy, and Hecate is such wild, magical energy, potential, right? And in the Greek tradition, she's the one power that Zeus has to kowtow to, that he can't, the only titanic energy he doesn't usurp, right? That he respects. And she is that force, right? And Medea is ultimately a priestess of Hecate, you know? So this is real powerful magic. And Artemis and Hecate are one too, you know? She's that one who notches the arrow, that absolute youth, but also that youth is the most terrifying thing. That hunt. What is the most dangerous thing in our world that truly exists? Something. Women. Not just, no, I mean like human beings at their absolute peak of hunting. And this is, and what this is Artemis is that absolute huntress, right? That perfected hunter energy that'll come and stalk you, you know?
Excellent. I didn't know that that Zeus was scared of Hecate. That's very enlightening. I would actually also add
In
that this
Hesiod.
card is the card of feminine magic. This is the ultimate card of all this, of all the magic in the tarot, which is particularly feminine. This is the most magical of all those cards. Can we go on to the next one, just so I can talk about something cool?
Yes.
So, so again, I tell you, if you can see, I'm still building it. So if you go, I think to the last one, it would be better to do because they're almost the same. So if we go on to the next one, if anyone wants to pause these later and read those notes, feel free. Over this, we can see there's a pattern. I can't see it very well because I'm on a tiny phone, but you know, this is that pattern that I discovered in the oldest of tarot, in the pyramids, in Stonehenge, in the artworks of Goya. I found it recently on what's the one with the American Gothic? Do you know that painting with the man with the pitchfork and the lady? That's been done with it as well. I found it in so many places you wouldn't believe it. If anyone wants a copy of this pattern, I'll give you a transparency of it after the show. If you come onto Discord, I'll drop it in there, and then you can go over the internet and drop this pattern over a particular the witch. You know Goya's, Goya, the guy that drew Saturn biting the head off his children. Well, he did lots of them with witches. So I was looking at the witchy ones yesterday. I put it over 2 of them, and it absolutely fit beautifully. So I would suggest people go and start with those, and then I thought it fits over the Nama palette from ancient Egypt. It fits over so many things. Look for esoteric people, esoteric artists, stick it over the top, and the chances are, if they know what they're doing, it'll fit. It certainly fits over all the best esoteric tarot cards. If we could, anyone have anything to say? Dion? I feel like I'm leaving Dion out.
Catfish.
Dion's the man.
Catfish, Normer.
Psychedelic catfish.
Yeah.
Oh wow, dreamfish, yes.
Yeah.
But this stuff, this really makes me think of. I'm trying to think. Is it Pythagoras or Plato who talks about the universe as the hexagram?
Pythagoras. No, both.
Yeah. Both. Yeah, it's both. Yeah. Okay, there you go.
Plato's noted for saying it, but it's coming from Pythagoras.
Right. As a lot of his stuff is. But yeah, this is what this is. It's that kind of Platonic theory, in a sense, elucidated through the imagery, but which is much older than that too. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I found it on cave walls. I mean, don't take my word for it, but I'm convinced that I found it on cave walls. I've proved it, but it's up for science. If we go on to the next image. So there you go. That's what I ended up with. What is this card about? Why is there a lobster at the bottom? It's actually a crayfish. Now, a crayfish can breathe both under the water, and they come out and they can breathe for a certain amount of time on the surface. They do that to spawn. Mine is bringing up a pearl of wisdom. Why is it doing this? Well, this card essentially, when you drill down right to the bottom of it, what it's talking about is how thoughts or information comes from the unconscious into the subconscious. And this lobster, this primeval creature, right at the bottom of the chain of things, the ancients, as we do now, saw that the most primitive life lived in the sea. So here it comes from the sea, and it's bringing up this pearl of wisdom, which you've done shamanically, let's say, or magically, from the subconscious, as from the unconscious into the subconscious, and now we're bringing it up. The next card is the sun, which is the consciousness. So this is what's going on here. The two. Well, do you want to talk about the 2 dogs, the 2 wolves? I've already said one's wild and one's tamed, but they're essentially guides.
But it's also, this isn't quoting really deep ancient stuff, right? Romulus and Remus, Sabine mysteries, and as you pointed out, one survives, one gets destroyed. This is the animal becoming humanized, right? It's this, the subconscious, the moon. It's also part of this is it's showing you that ancient matriarchal past when we were in this very much hunter-gatherer life that was very, very brutal, you know. And part of this is coming out of that is this refinement where we're becoming man. And this is that crossing the threshold. We have to be able to go to our instincts still. The beauty of man is that we get to walk, or humanity, I should say, is that we walk the middle path. We can become that solar deity, and we can draw down knowledge from the stars, but we can also go to those deep inner depths, to that animalistic primordial blackness, and bring up that wildness that can inspire and bring transformation, you know. And the tarot is always this kind of on one level it's psychological, right? And it's showing you how to reflect upon that unconscious, go to those instincts, right? This stuff hasn't been lost, it's just hidden within the self, you know.
And on an even more esoteric level, what would that mean, digging into the unconscious to bring it to the subconscious? We're talking about things like remote viewing. You're talking about things like actual real divination and clairvoyance and things like that. And these, you know, when your mum rang you up, are you all right? Yeah, Mum, I just had a bad accident. How did you know to call me? It's this kind of stuff. There are, you know, it's undeniable. Science might not be able to. Science has validated it in some ways, but science might not be able to validate it. But we have a connection to everything somehow. You know, another episode would explain all this stuff. But
when you look at like the priestess card on Lady Frida Harris's deck, you know, she is that human embodiment of the moon, and she's behind the grand weave of the universe, right? Because she can see the unfolding of creation. That's what the moon, you're right. It allows you to get to that deep primordial energy, right? That flow, that Rhea, right?
So a question for y'all. What is the number of the card? Is it 18?
Yeah. Again, it's a 9 number. 9 moons for a pregnancy. 9's the number of the moon, as is 18. 1 plus 8 is 9.
And then question on the original deck, does it have 2 towers?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Let me have a quick look. I'll have a look. But
I'm just curious. I'm looking at the towers of the Boas and Joachim references. You know, there's a lot of 2 towers symbolism, 2 mountains.
You do see the 2 towers in all of the classical images of the priestess, right? The pillars of Hercules. And you do have them in Crowley's. You do have the towers in Crowley's moon, right?
Yeah. So you got to think that we're going through. There's a zodiacal journey going on here, and this is, although there aren't any fish in it, this is the Pisces card. The Pisces is like the mystical character of the zodiac, the one that really gets down into the depths, and it splits off, and it is described within these cards, but there's just not explicitly 2 fish on there.
The Pisces is also that cycle, right? It allows you to break the cycle of death and to jump out, right? To either go back around or to jump free. The spiral.
To jump out of it, yeah. Because these 2 fishes going in 2 different directions. Those 2 towers on this card are more like, Snappy kind of glanced at it before. It's like we've got stages of thought going on here. So you got the pool of the unconscious and this creature bringing it up into the subconscious. Then you've got this kind of mineral mind, which is the background. Then you've got the more animalistic subconscious part of you, you know, the part of you that laughs, that is tickled by a joke. You know, we still have animal parts of us. Then the 2 towers are these like egoic constructions. That's what they are. And they are very much related to the 2 towers as you were putting it. But it's just, what are you constructing things for? Is it for your own ego, or is it for your children, kind of a thing? Is it for the good of the world, or is it for the good of you? And, you know, all egoic constructions are like this. What are you building for? How human are you really? You know, we say we're all humans, but when you read all the old philosophers, they're saying most people aren't actually human beings. They're still animals with you know, animals on 2 legs. you need to refine yourself to become human, and we need to construct these towers. You know, even the Tower of Babylon, which is here's being referenced. Tower of Babylon's a human construction. God might have struck it down in the Bible, but it's still men building rockets to the moon. That's what it is. It's trying hard to do things. You might fail. You might be full of ambitions that are foolish, but this is what we do. But why are you building that rocket? Are you building it to get to the moon, or are you building it to beat the Russians?
A little bit of both, is it not? It's always interesting. Yeah. But it's about,
and that's why there's a path down the middle. There's a path right in front of where that crayfish is coming out, through fields of mushrooms in this case, but and beneath the dew. Should we talk about the dew very briefly? So on the Discord, somebody put up an old alchemical image of people wringing out the morning dew into pots, and they were saying, "Oh, it's this alchemical operation." And I said, "No, actually, you can view it that way, as all alchemy is. But what they're really getting at is the dew of the moon." So obviously the moon's the subconscious. We've said that at its most basic, it's the subconscious. But when you wake up in the morning, that dew of the moon is still there. The moon would be your dreams in this case. You know, this is psychedelic realms. This is your dreams. This is those thoughts that daydreaming would be another, place when you're entering this moon card, or in a trance. But when you wake up in the morning, you're still a bit groggy. Sometimes you can go back to sleep and continue your dreams, can't you? Well, if you meditate or do magical operations at this time in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning is particularly good. But the dew of the morning in alchemy is, they put it between Aries and Taurus, which would be probably about 8 o'clock in the morning between Aries and Taurus. Each animal of the zodiac is about 2 hours in the daytime. So, basically it's first thing in the morning, you wake up, you're still a bit, can only open one eye. You have a quick drink, and then just try and re-enter that chemistry that you already had from sleeping, that dream chemistry. You can go back into it and utilize it for whatever operation you want to, whatever magical operation, putting yourself back into a trance, having control of your dreams, lucid dreaming, lots of things.
There's so much depth going on with the dew, because you're right. It's really referencing that time as the sun is just starting to rise and the moon is starting to set, that transformative moment where the love making happens, right? This is about, the dew is also, in many of the traditions, the sperm of the star, of the gods, right? And it's about extracting that magical sperm that then you can use to impregnate, to produce the divine child to come. Right? This is what you see with Osiris, with Harpocrates, with Theosphorus, with all these different, with Dionysus. There's all of this stuff about creating that magical potion that will allow you to produce the next creation, right? And it's also that magical love, alchemical creation, which we see in the lovers and the art cards, which is the combination of the sun and the moon, right?
And also that time of the year when you see Taurus up in the winter night sky. Obviously, Taurus is at dawn in spring, but is in the sky at night in October. And what time of year is that? Well, it's mushroom season, and we know all these ancient, especially in the West. That grew, you ate it, you didn't have to do anything to it, and you could enter these moon states. So again, that's why I put lots of mushrooms in the background. But that is, God, there's so much related to the bull and mushroom, and that's one of the many reasons why. Because at that time of year, you look up, you see Orion, you see Taurus. It's mushroom season. Let's go hunting. And again, hunting, full moon, hunting. Animals come out. You go and get your food. Animals are coming out doing the little courtship rituals at night, and that's a good time for you to kill them and eat them while they're mid-coitus. That's not very fortunate, but there you go. Blame Diana.
Exactly. And that's, the moon is this power, right? It's this magic of being able to go out and catch your prey, to be able to see what you want, to shine a light on something. It's very intense and powerful, right? And
high tide.
Yeah.
High tide, full moon. And we know in the emergency services, things go crazy on a full moon. I mean, how often have we all gone out and seen everything's going a bit wild and gone, is it a full moon tonight or something? Then you've looked up and it is.
Yeah. And it's also like, well, like if you get into the feminine traditions, right? Like women will sync up naturally with each other and with the cycles of the moon, you know, and then they, in a lot of the astrology is about like the moon will change signs every 2 days. And you know, people get really into the astrology, can map their emotions to this. And this is about understanding your emotions, understanding your period cycles. You know, it's all interrelated, and it deals with this ancient feminine magic. You know, the women have a deeper connection to the moon and are far more grounded in the natural world just by necessity, by the nature of their being, you know?
Okay. I have a little story. So I was at work. It was probably around the time I was making these cards, and I was at work and I was editing a video for somebody, and I was in a it's very rare that I'm in a room full of people because I need quiet and concentration. I need to be in a dark place so I can see colors and things like that. But I was in a room with a few people there, and I was typing away on my keyboard, and I wasn't very deeply into the esoteric stuff yet, but I was typing away, and then I basically had Kundalini rising, sat down typing at the keyboard, and I'm like, I'm basically having a spinal orgasm at work. I'm like, oh my, whoa, what's this? And I'm trying to get some work done, but nothing. About 2 or 3 minutes, and then I was like, what was that? And I turned around and I said to somebody, my only, I'm a child of the 90s, and I was a teenager in the 90s, and at that time in England, ecstasy, X or Molly, whatever the hell you lot call it, I don't know, was a big thing. And then we'd go out clubbing, and that was the rush that you get from that was the only thing I could compare it to. Now, there was an old raver sat next to me, like a good 10, 15 years older than me. So I turned to him, I said, I've just had the strangest experience. And I explained it as like a really natural orgasmic rush of ecstasy. And he was like, oh, well, that's weird. And then carried on, and it stayed with me for the rest. It's such an unusual experience at the time. I've had lots since. And on my way home on the train, I was like, what was that? And I'd remembered, what's that Australian chap that went nuts? Santos Bonacci. He talked about that the chrism oil that comes down 2 days after the moon goes in your sun sign. So I'm like, he says, no, he didn't say that. He said, as it passes you, as it comes out of your sun sign, the moon, that you can, if you've looked after yourself and you know, not been out drinking or not had excessive sexual encounters or whatever. And then so I got home and I checked it out, and it was literally the hour that the moon left my sun sign. I had that experience.
Wild. Just totally wild, crazy. So, do you want to look more at your cards here, Ryan, or do you want me to show you the video? What do you want to do for this episode? I
think we should leave the video for. I like that video, but we should leave it till next time, I think, because that'll be the official launch date for everybody. Anybody that's watching this, if you'd like any of these cards, they will be going on Kickstarter this Sunday. I hoped to do it for today, but Kickstarter kicked off, so I kicked them out.
Yes, we'll be back next week. We'll be doing even more of a deep dive here, and we'll be going through and talking about all of Ryan's incredible cards here. You can take a look.
We can still go through all the cards if you want to talk about anything. I'm happy to.
Well, yeah, let's we might as well talk about some of these trumps here and do a bit of the digging. Your Fool card. We did talk about this on the last. I think we did. Did we talk about this one, Dion?
No, we talked about it with Occult Examiner a while ago.
Right, we talked about it with Occult Examiner. The Magician card. This is such a fun one.
But yeah, I just want to say goodbye to y'all before I have to head out now.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Go.
Amazing presentation, and be ready, everyone, for next week. We're going to kickstart this off and get these tarot cards out to the world and spread this magic. So
Beautiful.
thank you all. I'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Thanks for being here, Dion.
Take
Cheers,
care.
buddy. Speak to you soon. Oh, I'll tell you what then, rather than have Dion miss out or anything, should we take some questions from the
Yeah, we can take some
the
questions here. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions for Ryan about his deck, we'll do a few questions, and yeah, we'll have some fun here.
I'd like to ask though first of Snappy.
Mhm.
What got you into the tarot? In fact, be thinking about that. I'll tell you what got me into the tarot.
Sure.
Apart from a trip that I had, the first time I came across it was a girlfriend of mine, and she had angel cards. And because I was like 18 at the time or whatever, and being a young man and unable to see beyond logic, I went, "What you want about? Those things are ridiculous." The next time I came across them was Aleister Crowley's tarot, which was owned by another girlfriend of mine, who had them on the side, and I must say I loved the artwork. I still thought they were silly cards, unable to see past my own logical idiocy, but I just fell in love with that artwork, so much so that they stayed with me until I had a trip on mushrooms many years later, which was the thing that got me into esoterica in the first place. They showed up, I was shown them on her bedside table, and it was like, "Those cards, Ryan, read those cards." And then the rest of the trip basically told me all the secrets of the tarot, which took me another 10 years to unpick. And it was weird. It was like I did it all backwards. It was like I was given all the secrets, apart from that pattern. I was given all the secrets, and then I had to go into the tarot to work it all out. What was your first? Isn't that mad?
That is kind of mad. So, I mean, okay, I come from a very interesting background. So my parents are both kind of atheists, but my mom is sort of, she'll tell you if you ask her she's atheist, but then she'll also talk to the wind and tell you about her dreams and predict the future and do all kinds of wildness and talk about how her aunt was a tarot reader and was a professional psychic and used to do things with the police here in the city I live in. So there was always this kind of weird divination thing going on in the background with my mom that I was exposed to as a child. And I was really always attracted also to a lot of this kind of fantasy stuff. And I remember there was a movie that came out that I saw. It's called People Under the Stairs. I was way too young to see this movie. It's a ridiculous war movie. It's insane. Scared the shit out of me, but the opening scene really stuck with me, where the main character is a young kid. He's called the Fool, and it's his sister doing a tarot reading with this fool, and she describes the card where, oh, the Fool, if he goes one way, he's going to get burned up by the sun, but if he goes other way, he's going to go off to die. You can't go back. So the fool has to figure out how to fly. Basically. And anyway, it's a really cool scene. And I just remember that really sticking with me. And so after watching that movie, I went digging into the tarot a bit, like reading on Google, because my dad was an engineer. So I had the internet at a very, very young age. And I found a tarot site. Like, this is way back in Usenet kind of stuff, basically. Yeah. And it took forever, but it almost took 3 weeks of doing this. I wound up downloading every single picture of the tarot, and then I had my dad print them for me in black and white, and I glued them to cardboard, and that was the first tarot deck that I had. Yeah, at like 12, 13. But then but then I kind of
like 90s,
mid-90s. In the 90s, yeah. But then I got into school, and I lost touch with the tarot for years and years. I got into Christianity, and after I left all of that and sort of had a kind of like a personal reawakening, I started reflecting upon my past and all the stuff that first intrigued me. And I was always so interested in a lot of that witchcraft stuff and that fantasy. And I decided to go re-look into it. And I just found, like, I don't know, the tarot has always attracted me. And I've always liked the idea of images. And I don't know. I found the Thoth Tarot. I'm not even sure how I found it, but I wound up purchasing it from a store, and I still have the same deck. This deck I've had now for like maybe 12 or 15 years, and I've used it pretty much every day since then. So it's
that
yeah.
The Thoth deck's my favorite as well, and was the one I learned with, and
yeah. So I don't know. I've always been attracted to the images and seeing them as kind of this as idols, as deity, and it really connected to me. It was like, it really reminds me of aspects of the Indian tradition that I had been studying in university, but from a Western perspective, and I just was able to connect to them, and I found that it worked,
Well,
I don't know.
For me, from that idol archetype thing that we were talking about before, once I understood the tarot, I had the keys to unlock all the religions, to unlock all symbolisms in all cultures. It is like the big key to everything for me.
Yeah.
Well, it is though. It can't be just for me, because I learned from them. They do unlock all the religions, all the symbolism from forever. Simple.
I think what it is like for us, right? I think primarily we are artists, so we operate on that artist kind of level. And the tarot is really much, it's like, to me, all of the stuff I've been studying philosophy was then physically represented in these cards,
Only 22 of them, really.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything's in those 22 cards. How do you do that? How do you do that? Because you know what you're doing, and you were able to drill it down to the most primal principle ions, and then let it expand from there. Because once you know those fundamental building blocks, you're able to construct the world. And we do construct the world from icons of language, as we said before.
Exactly. So it's just like, and the tarot has predicted my life. It's my primary way of communicating with the muse. I use it every day. It's like, I don't know. It's such a, it's a very much a spiritual religious thing for me, which is why it's like, it's so like people, how can you, the tarot, when you do, like, I get a lot of people who reflect upon how I do the tarot in my live streams, because I don't do it like a lot of tarot readers, because I'm not trying to tell the future. I'm trying to reveal the present, and I'm trying to communicate with the muse, the genius. Some tarot readers do this. You see that within, like.
So I do it.
You see this.
You and I have the same method. Yeah.
Right. A lot of people do that, but not readers on YouTube.
I don't watch them. I mean, personally, I don't do readings apart from people immediately around me, because I found some very serious things in there, like that underlying pattern, which I genuinely think is one of the most, if you're looking for an ancient technology, an ancient high technology that was handed down, well, that's it. There's so many things in there. It amazes me, like the size of the Earth and the Moon are in there, size of the planets. It's profound. So I try not to go into what people might see as being a bit woo, because I need to keep those things separate. Do you know what I mean? But I do tarot readings, and it is my way of connecting to that great unconscious, that collective unconscious, as Jung would have called it, or the muse, or the akasha, or whatever you want to call it, that larger other that we are, and we were, and we can connect to, but it's just difficult. You do it through the moon. That's how you do it. That moon card is how you do it.
It's so interesting is that the tarot, you're right, you can keep it an entirely secular art thing, as something, like you said, that operates on a purely psychological level, or you can go to the absolute depths of the tarot, right, and plummet. Like we still need to do a deep dive into your Saturn square stuff, because this connects to the tarot. You know?
Yeah. Well, Sator is tarot with an S on it.
Right?
You know, same letters.
It's the same letters.
And,
the same
and
letters.
for that same reason, it is that, you know, they are the same thing. And, you know, Mithraism, there's lots of veins of Mithraism that carry on, and they go into Gnosticism and they go into the tarot. They're amazing.
All it
Did
is
we
is
get
that
any?
the tarot is they're mirroring it so that the beginning and the end are the same. It's just S becomes a T for that esoteric reason.
That's why it's got 2 T's in it.
Yeah.
And when I write tarot, I write it with 2 capital T's. I write a capital T at the beginning and a capital T at the end. Tarot.
Exactly.
Although I met a French girl once and she was like, "Oh, I love the tarot." I'm like, wait a minute. I say it like I'm saying it in French as if it's tarot. She's like, "No, we said tarot." I'm like, "What?" So the English say it's like it's French and the French say it's like it's English. It's weird.
Right? It's so wild. And yeah, it gets into all this kind of cyclical magic, right? The tarot is really all about, you know, the beginning and the ending are the same. A lot of people miss that too, right? That the fool and the world are the same image, reflections of each other, right?
Well, esoterically speaking, the fool is the first card, or not the first card, but you know, the null card, and the 21st card as well.
Yep, exactly.
So that's that. So did we get any questions?
Okay, so yeah, let's see here. Does anyone have any questions for Ryan here for the tarot? I see a lot of people chattering, but
yeah.
Someone is asking about the tarot in the Torah. I can talk a bit about that. So there is some debate about the Marseille deck being related to the Torah, and there has been some scholarship that examines it from this level, and certainly Kabbalah plays a massive role within the tarot, but we have to also understand that Kabbalah is a European tradition. Yes. I feel like it's become very politicized in the modern times, and I'm not trying to discredit its Jewish cultural heritage, but there is many forms of Kabbalah, and it impacts all of European esotericism, right? And there are more Hebraic forms and there are more Christian forms. It's kind of a spectrum, you know?
Yeah. You've got to know that basic diagram of the tree of life, which I love, you know, so much so I made one for my tarot. That comes from the Tetractys, from Pythagoras' famous, looks like a little pyramid, 1 at the top, 2, then 3, then 4, you know? Exactly. And that's where it's come from. Really, what we see as Kabbalah now kind of gestated from information the Templars brought back from that area in like northern Portugal, southern Spain, southern France.
There's a really amazing book that my good friend Wretch wrote called Pagan and Gnostic Antecedents to the Kabbalah and the Merkaba Traditions. You can find it for free on academia.edu, anyone interested. And he goes through all of these sources, just documenting similarities within theurgic literature, within Pythagorean literature, within the Greco-Roman myths. So it's like the Kabbalah I see as a refinement and a sort of a Jewish or Christianization of a lot of these pagan ideas. Like gematria is Greek isopsephy. You know, it's like they're so similar. It's like they're coming from the same root tradition, I believe.
Same thing.
It's the same thing.
And look, guys, Judea was on the Mediterranean. It's still on the Mediterranean. It's on the Mediterranean. The ancient world was on the Mediterranean. You know, you say Egypt's in Africa. Egypt's on the Mediterranean. Judea is Middle East. No, Judea is on the Mediterranean. Greece is on the Mediterranean. Italy, England's not, but you know. Go a bit further. Go beyond those pillars of Hercules. You can find us.
People are always more similar than they are different, and cultures are always more integrated than we think, even when they try to isolate and separate and say they hate each other, you know? So it's like,
well, everybody hates the neighbors, you know what I mean? Right? Like there's the Scottish and the English and the French and the Germans, and you know, this is just
so
how it is.
Too. When you go back further enough, right? Aren't both the French and Germans Franks? anyway, but yet they like hate each other and fight over Alsace and Lorraine.
Yeah. We're the Anglo-Saxons, you know, we're Germanic essentially.
Yeah. True. And Norman too, right? You're kind of that mix of all these different. Everyone is.
We don't talk about the Normans.
Hey, that's my roots. That's my roots.
I'm only joking. Look, you know, the world got obsessed with identity politics for a while, but that's the least of you. I don't give a crap about. It's just the content of your character. That's it. That's all I care about.
Right.
Your culture's great, fantastic. We've all got one.
And you know what? Every culture encodes the mystery, I believe, right? Because the mystery is too important to not know. And anyone who is an artist can connect to the muse. So it's like every culture is going to have their own understanding and variation of this. It's just human, right? Like you find it literally everywhere.
Yeah. It's encoded in the sky because we couldn't read or write. And why is it encoded in the sky? What's it about? Well, it's about you. That's what it is. It's what humans are capable of doing. That's what's encoded up there because it was worth saving.
Right. So what I want to ask you about, Ryan, with the deck is for the Kickstarter, what's kind of your goal that you're looking to reach? Just for people who are interested, some people are asking.
What, as in monetarily?
Yeah. Like what do you have to reach to order to produce?
It's probably about 10 grand or something, like, realistically, because I need to make enough so I can buy some for myself to then keep selling. But the idea is, I don't really care about money. I'd like it to become a business. That would be nice. But that business, again, me and Snappy were talking the other day. Snappy had some great ideas about a Greek tarot, Greek gods and goddesses. I'd like that as a future project. I realized that I'm a man and that those tarot are not quite masculine. I like to think the balance, but the kind of from a male perspective. So I'd like to do something a bit more feminine because I realize a lot of tarot collectors are a bit more feminine. So I'd like to engage in that for my next project. I'd like to do the Greek ones as well. So I'd like to start this as a business. But having seen most of the tarot decks that are produced, guys, cat tarot aren't real tarot, I'm afraid to tell you.
Kawaii tarot. I sold tarot for a living for a while, like at a new age shop. Man, 90% of those decks are just oof.
Just garbage, aren't they? Yeah. So I want
you can use it for sword taste, but it's no different than a deck of playing cards.
Yeah. Well, I as I've described previously in this discussion, tarot came to me. I didn't come to tarot. Tarot came to me. And so I feel that I've been given a purpose in life, and this is a part of it, and to keep these traditions going and to understand them and to embody them. So that is literally what I'm trying to do.
That's so beautiful.
I'll tell you what, Snappy, you could play the video as long as we could play it again next week at the end.
Oh, totally.
See, guys, I've given up my work. I've invested all my money in this. I've put all my time into it. I am so poor right now. I can't even pay my rent. I am effed, but I love this so much. I've put everything I have into it, and I even say it here. So yeah, can you blow it up so it full screens?
Is that not full? Let me see.
So you can't see me, are you, basically?
Yeah, I'm just.
Oh, that'll do.
Here we go. The button was hidden on me. Sorry. There we are.
Yes, fellow Taromancer. So you've summoned me, Ryan 7, here to speak of hidden esoteric knowledge. That secret fire kept burning within these bewitching cards. The art of the craft is in the exquisite symbols. Every symbol deciphered, every mystery unveiled provokes an ever-deepening feeling that tarot are even more than we already understand. It's a gift from our ancestors, a book of life, the power to transform, where the wave of a wand can conduct the cosmic orchestra itself. Tarot true magic. I delved into the depths of Tarot's myriad of mysteries. 11 years of vigilant research. I compared and contrasted the countless decks and myths, traced the deep history of the ideas, poured myself into the artwork. My own, a collage of thousands of repainted photographs, intense with colour, vibrating with meaning. On the way, I connected with other taromancers, history lovers, and occult weirdos, made some documentaries, loved the hard work and what the symbols did for my soul. Eventually, I made discoveries that blew my mind, including a hidden template of cosmic geometry, a treasure kept by many masters, used since the dawn of time. Inspired to craft something special using these same wonders, I made these 4 relics, the 4 elements, the effects of the magician. Modernized art to the ancient tradition. Simple yet detailed. Layered with the wisdom of the archetypes. Numeric metaphysics. The trivium and quadrivium. The psychology of the zodiac. Sacred geometry. Energy alchemy. Shamanic journeying. Kabbalistic cosmic order. The music of the spheres, the secret of space and freaking time. I've put everything I have into this. I can't wait to show you what I found in these enchanting cards. See you soon. Abracadabra.
That was awesome.
Abracadabra.
That was awesome.
Cool.
Great filmmaker, gotta say. That was fun.
Abracadabra. I actually got that. I'd said that on the end of one of these episodes just by mistake. I just went abracadabra like that. I'm using that in the video.
It's too funny. Hey, well, you know, the abracadabra is that unfolding of the triangle, right? That's their moon card.
and when I worked out when Crowley spells abracadabra wrongly on that chariot card at the top, I took all the I did the isopsophy of it, the gematria, and it's 2160.
Of course it is, right?
Of course it is. Of course it is.
That's the thing, right? You know, it's all this incredible esoteric. I'm so excited to see where you're going to go. So I want to pick your brain a bit about this Kickstarter before we end today. What are the tiers that you're looking to have for people and such?
So they're like simple tiers. You can just, like, if you want to donate, you can donate, and I'll give you a free a PDF, like a digital copy of all the major arcana in big format. Access to a film that I'm making first, like for the premiere that I'm making for Netflix, and all the videos I'm going to make communicating exactly the secrets of all the cards and what the cards are, like a little white book in video form.
Beautiful.
Then we got tiers up. I'm offering a few custom made ones. If you want a customized one, like you want a pink one, or you want a glow in the dark one, or you want a neon one, I can do that, but that's limited. And then I'll be selling sets of these with the tarot. So it's the one with the cup and the sword, you know, for your ceremonial magic or just for looking pretty. With the cards, all the cards have a black edging, unless you want a shiny purple edging, which looks cool. And then tiers up, like with the box, then with sets of things, and you know, you can buy things in bulk and get money reduced. But the point is to get this stuff out there, really. So please, I'll be begging more next week when it actually kicks off. But yeah, please do it, because look, we can do so much good with this. And you know, I want to connect with people like Snappy and have their ideas made into the tarot. We can make more products if you want. You know, I learned how to do the resin casting and designing in 3D just to do this. You know,
Right. No,
so
this
there
is
are
an
so
incredible
many-
project, and you're doing something that people will enjoy and will want to use. Right. This is a really incredible undertaking, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see where it goes. You know.
It's real tarot. It's not got cats in it. Does
Yeah.
it have a cat in it? I might have one cat in there. Yeah, well, the strength card naturally has a big lion on there, so
Right. I was going to
It
say
does
there are
have
always
cats in
a
it.
few cats, right? But no, I
Yeah.
get what you're saying. You know, it is. You know, tarot runs the gamut like anything, right? And some people, you know, some people just want pop tarot. They just want to have
Yeah.
fun. But this
There's
is not
nothing
what
wrong
you're
with that.
doing. Nothing wrong
Yeah,
with that.
yeah,
But that's not what
exactly,
this
yeah.
is. That's not what
Yeah.
this is.
No, this is the real deal. I've really tried hard to bring out what was truly in there, and that list at the end, like including things like energy alchemy, which not many people realize is in there. But I think the few things I've shared with Snappy, I think you'd agree there's at least a very high probability that this stuff's in there.
Almost certainly it's all implied, right? Even Crowley connects a lot of the Kundalini. Like you see it explicitly in some cards, like the Chariot, right? With that, you know, that base energy, and you know, it's all this alchemical. How do you transform the self? You have to make the serpent rise up the spine, rise up your wand, right? So that you can cause that ambrosia to come in, and you can take. You know, we know we've talked all about this.
Yeah. And as a practicer of these things, I'm not very expert, but as a practicer of these things, it bloody works and it's real, you know. And what amazing things we can do with our bodies that you've not even realized. So oh, by the way, there's also a martial art hidden in there because I'm a martial artist. So like the emperor has got a posture on, the high priestess has another posture. These are all martial arts postures.
Awesome.
And which actually, in the martial art that I teach, I actually call it the priestess. I actually call the pose the emperor. I use tarot analogy as part of martial art.
That's amazing, Ryan. Oh wow, so much fun. So, what do you want to leave our audience with today's episode? Any final words about the tarot? And of course, we want everyone to come back next week for the official Kickstarter launch.
Well, I think next week particularly, like, have any questions ready, because between me and Snappy, even if it's not about my tarot, you know, me and Snappy between us can definitely answer those for you. But I mean, consider this, you know, the start of something wonderful, because although you have a really bloody cool deck, and I have, you know, I'm a pretty good artist, even if I do say so myself. But even if I wasn't a good artist, I've put so much time into these. I hope the art's good. So there's something cool you can have, but they will unfold, and they'll unfold all the mysteries. I've not found anything in my other research that aren't in these cards in this particular deck. And
right,
please come
it's
back.
Total synthesis. That's the tarot.
Yeah.
It's a total synthesis.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You know, if you're interested in the esoteric, and if you're interested in anything that we do, please support Ryan. Please support this project. There'll be more beautiful projects on the way, and we'll see you guys next week, where we deep dive even more, and we'll go through all of Ryan's incredible cards. We'll give you one last little peruse of some of this amazing artwork that he's done. And like we said, this isn't just artwork. This is everything is in a proper place, with its proper meaning, all of the colors, all of the symbolism, everything has been thought over and agonized over for over a decade at this point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, we'll have so much fun going deep into all of those cards next week, and we'll have all the links for you guys for you to support. In the meantime, please go subscribe to Ryan7. He's Ryan71111 on YouTube. You can find the link in the description below.
Come and find me on Facebook as well. Come and friend me on Facebook. I like a good natter.
And on the Discord, we're both on the Discord. You can come chat with us, ask any questions
If you come after this podcast is finished, if you come to the Ryan 7 section on the Discord, I will be there to answer any questions in person.
Amazing. All right. Thank you, everyone. Peace and love. And we will come back next week with more Ryan 7 True Magic Tarot. Take care.
Love you all.